Well, I know what one of the boxing podcasts would say for their favourite Dutch player. Dennis van der Ende wants tots or
It's on the full
102.
flag. Dennis
There
van
we
der
go.
Ende.
Level we are at 2-2.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the weekly Dartscast in association with Darts Corner. I'm Alex Moss and alongside me, no Burton do it this week, but we do have a special guest co-host in his place. It is our brilliant producer, Hanna Frostman. Great to have you with us, Hanna. How are you doing?
Holding together as best I can, other than not feeling great. Looking forward to a good chat.
Well, hopefully you're feeling better soon and we can talk about some darts. And thanks very much for stepping in for Burton this week. I might ask you to take care of his hang tight sign-off for us in his absence. But before then, plenty to chat about. And we're going to kick things off with, by the time you're listening to this, a look ahead to tonight's Premier League playoffs. It is the 20th Premier League season. It comes to an end at the O2 on Thursday night. We've got the two Lukes, Littler and Humphreys. We've got the two Michaels, Van Gerwen and Smith contesting for the title. But for you, Hanna, is this the best lineup that we've ever had for the playoffs?
For me, I'd say no, it's not. It's just a lot of recency bias to say it is. Nothing against the four players by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're all fantastic. But I think obviously considering it's meant to be the best in the world playing over and over again, I feel like we've seen a couple that were a bit stronger. Could I quote them to you right this minute? Not hugely. Not great at remembering things. But in terms of the standard with the four that are there, I think you could make an argument that the standard increases or the difficulty increases every year as we see the averages rise across the tournament. So in terms of potential, the potential is there. And I do quite like the field. There's some loveliness to having two Lukes, two Michaels, and having them play accordingly, and having, the two most recent world champions in the top four there. So, it looks good, but could I name you one better? Not off the top of my head. Do I think it's the best? No. But then again, maybe I'm the one in the wrong here. I haven't watched the Premier League in probably 3 or 4 years. That requires a TV, which I don't own.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this is the best lineup for the playoffs ever. And give a shout out as well to one of our newest sponsors. If you missed it last week, Quiff coming on board. They've got the outright odds at the time of recording to win the Premier League. These are in decimals for you. Luke Humphreys, the slight favourite at 2.3. Then Luke Littler, 2.55. The two outsiders, seems funny to say that, Michael Van Gerwen, 4.5, and Michael Smith, 5.8. And remember, if you are having a flutter, you've got to be 18 plus. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly, and for more, go to begambleaware.org. And yeah, I guess, for some people, you can make a valid argument that this lineup for 2024 is the best. You've got the last two world champions. You've got Luke Humphreys and Michael Smith. You've got the record-breaking 7-time winner of the Premier League, Michael Van Gerwen. And then the fourth player you're going to throw into the mix, he topped the table on his debut at the age of 17, the teenage sensation Luke Littler. So you've got 3 multi-time major winners in there, all in the last 12 to 18 months. And then the outlier in the group is Luke Littler, who goes off as a slight second favourite to win it on his debut. And we'll come on to our predictions in a moment, because it is hard to predict who is going to win this title. I think you can make a case for all 4 of them. But is it the best lineup ever? I think it's up there, and we could be talking this time next week on the show and saying, was that the best ever finals night we've seen? Because the potential's there. You've got these 4 players. They could serve up 3-4 hours of entertainment on the hockey. And on paper, I've got to say, I think there is a few other occasions that surpass this current crop for a finals night, maybe more so on star power and name value. But for me, I'd put a few ahead of this. I'd put 2014, Michael Van Gerwen, Raymond van Barneveld, Phil Taylor, Gary Anderson. You just put those 4 names together and you're going to be tuning in. 2016, Michael Van Gerwen, Phil Taylor, Gary Anderson, Adrian Lewis. By this time, you've got 4 PDC world champions in the mix. 2017, Michael Van Gerwen, Phil Taylor, Gary Anderson and Peter Wright. And Peter Wright back then, we're going to talk about him later on in the show, but back then, 2017, a strong argument. He was the best player in the world. He just won the UK Open, his first major, and he was joined by 3 other world champions in there. So for me, I'm going to put those 3 ahead of this lineup, but the 2024 lineup for finals night, it goes in at number 4 for me out of those 20 years. So that's still pretty good going, but could it end up being the best finals night ever though? We'll have to wait and see.
And our question of the week, sponsored by Condor Darts, gets us right to the heart of it, and that is, who will win the Premier League playoffs?
Yeah, prediction time. And I think this is why Burton's had a lot of work commitments this week, so he doesn't have to give any predictions. But yeah, lots of our listeners getting involved in our poll on Twitter, so still time to go and have your say and predict who you think is going to win it at the time of recording. Luke Humphries leading the way on 44%, followed by Luke Littler 27%, and then the two Michaels, Van Gerwen and Smith locked on around 14 to 15% each. And we've had Stefan Rowlands Cranham, what a name by the way, getting in touch, and he said Van Gerwen was the least favoured going into last year's playoffs. Will history repeat? And it very well could, Stefan. You go back 12 months ago, like you mentioned, the last league night of the season, Van Gerwen pulled out after his quarter-final win with an injury. 7 days later, he was at the O2 beating Michael Smith and then Gerwyn Price to win that record 7th Premier League title. And last season, he finished third in the table, 33 points. His last nightly win was 96. This year, finished third again in the table, a lower points tally on 29 points, but he's had more recent success. He won night 11 and he's won one more night than he did last year. He won 4 compared to 3, but still, you look at Michael Van Gerwen, you watch him on TV, you might watch him in the arenas, and his form has been patchy. He doesn't give you that aura that he did before, that this is the man to beat. You're watching the best player in the world, but at the same time, underestimate MVG at your peril, because when it comes to the clutch moments in tournaments, particularly in the Premier League, Michael Van Gerwen, he's written the book on it. He's shown on many occasions that over a long season that the Premier League is, he can peak at the right time. And Michael Smith touched on something similar in his interview after winning the night in Sheffield last week, talking about finals night. He said, this is a different atmosphere and it feels like a different tournament almost. You have to bring your best game, and hopefully I can bring some good form into next week. And the one time that Michael Smith got to the Premier League final, 2018, Michael Van Gerwen threw 112 average at him and beat him 11-4. So I think we've seen several times over a decade now, MVG, he's been pulling out world-class displays on finals nights in the Premier League. You think of that 1-3-2 finish on the ball to beat Phil Taylor on his debut in 2013, that 112 average I just mentioned. Last year he had a 105 in the final to beat Gerwyn Price, who was the player of the season, and for many people the pick to win finals night after such a good season. But MVG tore him apart 11-5 in that final, and it used to be a boring pick to say, oh yeah, I'm going to go with Michael Van Gerwen when it comes to making these predictions, but it doesn't feel like that anymore, and he's going to have to be on it. He's going to have to be at his best with the level of opposition that he's got here, but at the same time, neither of the other three have won this Premier League before, so that is an advantage, I think, for MVG, because they're all going to be desperate to win this title. But yeah, I'm going to go with MVG. I'm going to go with the Green Man. I think he's going to beat Humphries in the semi-finals, then he's going to beat Littler in the final, and I think his experience of finals night is going to shine through, and I think he is going to be lifting that title for an 8th time on Thursday night.
Hard to disagree with basically any outcome. They're all in fantastic form. Obviously, Michael's on a little bit of a dip, but like you said, as soon as you ride off MVG, then he comes out of nowhere and absolutely decimates. I reckon Ponder. I am looking at the other night's games, considering the semifinals lined up quite handily with how the semifinals will line up again. I'm going to take a stab and say repeat of the World Cup final, a Luke v. Luke situation. It was close with Michael Smith and Luke the other night, with it being 6-5. I think Luke Littler in these situations where he's never been before, everybody thinks, oh, how is he going to perform? And then he manages to, dig deep and pull out, the next level of darts from somebody his age. So I think we'll see a Luke versus Luke final, and I don't begrudge anybody with it going either way, but I would love it if Luke Humphries had it. And I think it's as likely as any other outcome is at this point, and more so for the fans, in the arena. Hopefully not only is it a good game, but hopefully it's a close game to keep people on the edge of their seats there. So I could see it going all the way, but I'm going to go with Luke final and Luke Humphries to win it, maybe just barely.
Well, there we go. Those are our predictions for finals night. Get in touch. Let us know who you think is going to be walking away with the title. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Premier League in a moment. But before we do, let's bring in our first guest on this week's show. And he recently won his 10th PDC title. A big weekend coming up for him. It is the race to get to the World Cup. Here's our chat with Brendan Dolan.
I'm pleased to say we're joined by the 10-time PDC title winner, Brendan Dolan. Thanks for the time again, Brendan. How are you doing?
All's good with me, Alex. Just plodding along as best I can.
Glad to hear it. Well, we're talking just a few days before the Dutch Darts Championship. It's going to be the last event before the cut-off for this year's World Cup of Darts. And it looks like you and Daryl Gurney have got quite the race going on to join Josh Rock in that Northern Ireland team.
Yeah, it's very close at the minute. I believe it's just a matter of one game between us will decide it. So, yeah, it's competitive, it's nice, but, it's one of those that I take that I have more important things in the World Matchplay race and the World Grand Prix, and I think I've put myself in a good place for them. So I've had my time at the World Cup, so if it's meant to be this year, it's meant to be. If not, I'll definitely be supporting Darryl and Josh the whole way.
Yeah, very close between you and Daryl, just £500. And when we're talking, the draw isn't out yet for this weekend. We know Daryl, he'll be seeded, he'll come in at the second round. You're going to start off in the first round on Friday. There's going to be a lot of interest in that draw when it comes out on Thursday lunchtime. So do you fancy a possible second round tie with Daryl as an unofficial decider?
I'll just take what comes our way. For me, it's there's a tournament there to be won, never mind whatever else is going on, and I'm there to treat it like any other tournament and just do the best I can, and if it's good enough to win the tournament, happy days, and you get the knock-on effects then from it. But there's no point disrespecting the European tour, and for me it's a matter of I'd love to win one. I haven't won one yet, and that's the goal, really.
That's fair enough. Well, one more on this weekend coming up, and then we'll circle back. And we saw an interview that Daryl did with our friend Scalzi at Online Darts at the weekend. Daryl said a story about how just before you won the Pro Tour a few weeks ago, you were asked to try on the World Cup shirts, but you said you wouldn't need it. Then you go and win a title on the floor. Is that right?
I did actually say that, yeah. It was either the day before I won the title or it was the day that I won the title. As far as I was concerned, Darryl was in pole position, and I'd be happy enough to see Josh and Darryl together. But Darryl was sitting at the desk when I was asked to try on, size it up, and I did say, sure, doesn't matter, sure, not need it. But I'll do it. And I suppose after winning that title, I'm alongside Darryl now in contention with him, and we just see what happens this weekend, and we'll just do our best.
Well, that title in Hildesheim a couple of weeks ago, you're 10th in the PDC. They're all special in their own way, but what did it mean to you to hit that double figures and join that short list of players to have won 10 titles on the circuit?
Yeah, it's a bit of a landmark, it's a landmark to win one title in the PDC, but it's nice to get into double figures, 10, I've had a long career, maybe only to get 10 seemed as a little bit of a disappointment for some players, but for me, it's every time I'm going out, I think the standard's getting higher and higher, and if I'm still able to win with the quality of players around at the minute, I think it's it's a good sign, good testament to myself that I'm improving as well as everybody else.
Definitely. Well, as I said before we started, lots to catch up on with you. We last had you on the show way back in August 2019. You were chatting with my co-host Burton just after you'd won your 6th title. It was a first title in nearly 5 years. A few months later you won your 7th. Looking back now though, how much did that 6th title give you a confidence boost to kick on again?
Massively. I think definitely way back then I was struggling, mentally thinking, I don't have it anymore. I was definitely probably a lot of self-pity for myself, and I was thinking, well, I'm going to have to call it a day, that's just the way it goes. But, winning that title definitely, give me a bit of confidence, a bit of belief that, I can still throw darts, and, I've now got another 3 or 4 titles added on to that, so, I'm still competing, so I still feel that I've another few years left in the game anyway, so.
All those titles, they helped get you back into the World Matchplay in 2020. You also got back in the World Grand Prix that year as well, and it feels like a long time ago now, but those events were behind closed doors for you. It was the first time in those events for a few years. Did they still feel as big, or did that lack of a crowd take away from it?
No, the titles themselves, they're all big. To me, it doesn't matter where they're played. It's what they are, what they represent in the PDC. And for me, you have, in my belief, you have three majors in the PDC, and it's the World Championship, the World Matchplay, and the World Grand Prix. And everything else, there's big tournaments. But for me, they're the three elite tournaments. And possibly, especially the Matchplay and the Grand Prix, the two of the hardest ones to qualify for.
One of those majors you mentioned, the World Championship, that was also played with no fans that year. You and Gerwyn Price went all the way to a sudden death leg. Both sat on 72. He got the first go and took it out, went on to become world champion. Did you think that could have been your time?
You look back and see, I would say, yes, his clutch finishing that year was brilliant. Would I have been as good, or would I have played better? Because I don't think Gizzy played the best darts he's ever played in the Worlds. I think he's played far better since and not got as far. And, would it have been meant for me? You just don't know. And you can't really, speculate. I'd say in my own head, that could have been me. But really, would it have been? I don't honestly know. But I just, pushing Gizzy to the last and then him going on to win it, was probably another little sign for myself that my game wasn't too far away, from pushing the top lads, and just give me that extra bit of confidence as well.
Yeah, and we saw that almost a year later, the end of 2021, one of your biggest runs on TV, getting to the semi-finals of the Players' Championship finals, including a win over Gerwyn Price, losing out to Ryan Searle in those semi-finals. But what are the standout memories from that run, and I guess being in the last session of a TV major again?
Well, yeah, it's for me, the length of time I'm playing the game, and I just don't be in the latter stages of the TV tournaments often enough. From the quarterfinals on, I'm just not doing it, and for me, that is probably the issue. That's where you get your most ranking points, and obviously that's why I never got back up to near the top 10 in the world, and because I haven't been good enough in the big tournaments. And for me, that's something, I do believe it's a day-on-day thing. Like, any day can be your day, and it's just never clicked right at them stages. And for to have a long run, and get to the semi-final, and for part of that game I was in contention with Ryan, to make it, and obviously Ryan lost out in the last leg to Peter that year. It's another one of those you think, what if, but it's gone now. But it was just nice at the time to get that long run and be back in the last four of a TV tournament.
Well, let's fast forward to last year then, and the first round of the World Matchplay. It definitely was your day, beating Michael van Gerwen. You were a 13-2 underdog, and you knocked him out in that first round. How special was that win?
Michael's one of the players in the game of darts that everybody's going to remember as, contention. If he's not the greatest, he's one of two or three of the greatest of all time. The way the amount of titles he has won in the PDC and that. So you're always going to get a tough game from Michael, and I think he averaged near 100 that day, and I just hung on, took out the right shots at the right time, and it was a big win, to get over Michael. It definitely possibly raised the profile of my game in the media circles, a lot bigger and that there. So it was good in that respect, publicity wise, and that. So that I'm still hanging around.
Well, then comes the World Championship at the end of last year, and first of all, we've got to start with that game between you and Mickey Mansell, serving up a cracker again, going to sudden death, both averaging 95. What did that game mean to you, seeing how well both of you played, and for such a long period on that stage as well?
Yeah, well, it was a really long game, and for me, I probably got the perfect result, because I always want to see Mickey doing really well, and I thought the world would have seen how good Mickey Mansell can be, and some of the finishing that day was it the 154 to put it to the last leg was pressure shots at the right time, and he showed his class. And obviously, I didn't want to lose at the same time, and I got over the line. I got ahead in the last leg, and I kind of bullied the situation and got over the line, which is what you have to do when you're in them places. When you go to last leg to say those, you have to put your foot down and take control. And because I won the ball, possibly 2 hours previous to that, you don't realise how important it was, but I learned a valuable lesson that the build-up was very, very important that day.
Yeah, it's a game we're not going to forget in a long time. You carried on in the tournament. You went on to beat Gerwyn Price and Gary Anderson in back-to-back games to make the quarterfinals. The game with Gary 2-0 up, 3-2 down, come back and win it 4-3. But what do you remember about those 2 wins?
Well, again, I think against Gazzy, I played quite a good game, but it was more about the timing of certain things I done at the time, certain scores. I got 180s and that, but the finishing was, probably a killer blow to Gazzy at times. He might have missed a dart or two, and I took out maybe a 2 or 3 darter, and I kept doing that all the time, which I knew probably mentally would then get the better of Gazzy, or knock his heart out. It takes a lot to knock his heart because he's a fighter, but I think I eventually did, and I felt that's it was me finishing at the right time, just doing things at the right time where it got me over the line. And then to play Gary, then obviously, like, Gazzy and Gary that year was the 2 best players on the tour average wise, and to do that for 12 months, like, they have to be playing well, and going into the biggest tournament in the world, they're going to be playing well. But again, I thought Gary came out of the traps very, very sluggish and not that good at all, and I was probably more concentrating on why he wasn't that good, and I took my eye off the ball, and then I felt myself struggling again. But I dug deep to fight back and to get over the line against Gary, from 2-0 up, cruising, everything going your way, and Gary not playing as well as you would have expected him to play, and then next thing to be 3-2 down. It was a bit of a dig that I thought I had thrown the game away, but I dug in and I managed to fight back, and it was great to get the win, so it was.
Yeah, it's 2 great wins, and the run at the Worlds ends to Luke Littler in the quarterfinals. Leaving Ali Pally after that game, what were the overriding emotions? Was it frustration not reaching those same heights in your own performance, or could you move on quickly and look back on the highlights from the run?
Well, to be honest, I probably was looking more at my performances. I didn't feel that my scoring game was there compared to what I had in the other games. I just felt, and I probably let the game get away from me. But in saying that, I looked and seen Luke's average, and he averaged 100. So I would say, the young man played well. So it was a bit of he played that well, but I didn't perform the way I should have, and there was a little bit of disappointment. But it only takes maybe a week or 2 after that, you're not playing darts anyway, to just get that out of your head and to get back to what you do best, when the tour started.
Definitely. Well, a few more before we let you go, and let's get on to this year then. And you said after your 10th title a few weeks ago, all you were thinking about was qualifying for the match play. So how much do those races for the big events add to the pressure going into these Pro Tour events? When you're right in the mix, does it make it harder to relax and play at your best?
It does. It probably, for the first round of any tournament, it's the toughest, but when you're going in with extra thoughts of, I need a certain amount of prize money to stay in the mix, stay in the top 16 of the ranking that qualifies you for it or whatever, it definitely does. And all this year, I've been either 15th and 16th for every ranking system going, so I've been at the very bottom, ready to be overtaken by anybody. And it did add a lot of pressure to a lot of the games, but I would more say once you get a win in that tournament on that day, you then relax a little bit more, and then definitely if you get a second win or that, whatever you're racing for goes out the window.
Well, you said as well about the younger players coming through, how they've rejuvenated your game as well. You wanted to be a pest for everyone else. You wanted to win a TV title and a Euro tour. How important is it to have those goals to keep you motivated going after such a long time playing the game?
It is. I'm a long time playing the game, but, the schedule and everything now, it can be very draining because you're constantly on the road, going from one tournament to another, and maybe not even, a lot of time you get home for maybe 2 or 3 days, but there's sometimes you don't actually get to go home, and mentally that can be tiring, because you like to get back to base, start fresh again and go again, even if it's only a couple of days. But it's when you have the young lads coming through and playing so well, you want to think, well, I can handle it with them. I can still play darts. I can still, play as well as that young man. And that's what probably makes me, I'm going to stick at this again. I'm going to stay fighting and perform, and definitely have to start beating them, and maybe even, as I say, I would love a Euro title, and I would love a TV title. Obviously I'd love the world to be a world number one and world champion, but baby steps. If I get them others first, then I'll tell you I want to be the world champion.
Lastly, before we let you go, I remember your chat with Burton, and you said that you started playing darts as early as 4 or 5 years old. You were playing with your older brothers in the garage growing up. If you could pick out your favourite moment from all the years you've been playing darts, what would it be? Is it that 9-darter in the Grand Prix? Is it a title you've won, a big win, or something else?
I'd have to go with the 9-darter. The 9-darter, but also the fact that I won that match. For me, hitting the 9-darter and losing it just takes totally away from getting the 9-darter. But I got the 9-darter and I got to the final of the tournament. So that for me has to be the highlight of the darting career anyway.
A special moment. Well, Brendan, it's always great to get you on the show. Thanks for giving us some of your time, and wish you all the best for not just this weekend, but what else is to come in 2024 as well.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. All right.
Thanks again to Brendan for joining us now. Continuing the show, the league phase of the Premier League finished in Sheffield last week. Luke Littler stole some of the headlines, didn't he? That 120 finish, the Jose de Souza way, 3 tops on his way to beating Peter Wright in the opening game of the night. And there's been a bit of talk, was that Peter Wright's Premier League farewell? What do you reckon?
It's difficult to say on a couple levels. In terms of game-wise, you would say, unless there's a miracle with his game, probably. However, the Premier League is still an invitational, and it is still a kind of desire to have big characters as well as the best of the best. Peter Wright is a big character, and so will they go on if he still wants to play Premier League? Will they go on without him? You could make the case for many people. You could make the case for many people this year. Does Peter Wright and his dancing and his crowd, craziness, as it were, and the persona with that, bring the viewers to Sky the way that Sky wants him to? That's an argument you could make for that as well. The Premier League selection always seems a bit of a mystery to me. There's more people than you'd expect to qualify for it that get left out. But it does seem like beyond the top qualifiers, they're looking for somebody who will hold their own but bring a bit of personality. And I think that's why he's got the invite as well this year. And I'd say that if he wants to, we've seen Peter Wright raise his game out of nowhere before. Something about, he usually like to do it at the end of the year. Hasn't done it successfully this past year, but he normally likes to raise it toward the end of the year. Something about, the Scottish players. Gary Anderson used to, sit things out but have a high enough average. So it's hard to say. I think mainly it probably will come down to if Peter wants to participate, because it is quite a heavy schedule and it is a lot. And so will he want to, if offered, Especially if he's going to have these nights where who knows what it does psychologically to you for your other games if you're losing all these mini games. Will he want to participate in that for the sake of giving them a big personality? Who's to say? Don't know. I will be very wishy-washy about this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's his farewell, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow his game just rockets back into form, he comes flying out of the gate, or even he comes with enough form that Sky says, I need that level of personality on my tour because it draws the eyes. So I guess we will await and see.
Yes, certainly an interesting one. And Peter Wright, he's been a fixture, a mainstay in the Premier League for a decade now, since that run to his first World Final in 2014. But it has been sad to see that demise that he's had in the Premier League, not just this year, but you think last year as well. He finished bottom of the table. This year it was obviously worse. He picked up just 2 wins across the 16 weeks. Last year he managed 9 points, got to a final, but his record this year, it doesn't make for good reading. And he started off the season, the first game of the Premier League, an 83 average against Rob Cross, and that kind of set the tone for the season ahead for Peter. And yes, there were a few instances during the season where the Peter Wright game we've come to know over the last 10 years returned. He pushed Luke Littler all the way in Newcastle to a last leg with a 103 average. A few weeks after that, I was in Manchester in the press room watching his game with Gerwyn Price, where he lost with a 109 average. And you'd see those performances and you'd wonder, is this the start of a comeback for Snakebite? But all too often, it would be followed a week later by another disappointing display. He's had a lot of averages in the low 90s, the low 80s. There was even a 77 average in Rotterdam against Nathan Aspinall. And I think Wayne Mardle, he was spot on during Sky's coverage last week when he said Peter Wright, he's just not been good enough often enough. And that high level consistency, something that Peter Wright was renowned for during his time at the very top when he was winning major titles, winning world titles. You think back to that World Matchplay campaign in 2021 when he won the title, and we were calling it Phil Taylor-esque, how he just blew everyone away and played at such a high level across the whole week over that long format as well. And I only watched the first 2 games of the Premier League last week. That winner takes all between Smith and Aspinall, but the first game of the night, it was Peter Wright against Luke Littler, and Peter, he was in the game for a while. We had the tops finish with 2 darts, but 2 legs later, Luke Littler, he topped it with the 3 tops, the Jose de Souza shot that we mentioned. And those few legs, it kind of encapsulated a change in the guard for me, and it is going to take a big second half of the season now for Peter Wright to be considered for the Premier League next year. Yes, he could get into that top 4. You look at the post-World Championship order merit, he's around 50 grand off the top 4. So if he was to make a deep run at the World Championship or at the World Matchplay, get into that top 4, that there is the potential to do that. But right now, I just can't see it. I can't see Peter Wright being in that lineup for 2025. And as our listeners know, I'm a Snakebite fan, but as the Premier League has come to an end, it did feel like being in the Premier League for Peter Wright this year, it's done him more harm than good. And it's going to be hard now for him to rebuild that confidence going into the rest of the season now. So, yeah, I think right now when we're talking, unless we see a severe upturn in form for Snakebite, that very well could be his Premier League farewell that we saw last week.
And we're a month away from the World Cup. A lot of teams will be confirmed after the Euro Tour this weekend. But of the provisional teams, who do you already like the look of?
Yeah, I've got to say the World Cup is one of my favourite tournaments of the year that the PDC put on, and we'll obviously talk more about the World Cup closer to the time. But the bar's been set, I think, after last year's edition of it, because we had that change in the format. We had all pairs. It brought a lot more excitement to the event, and I thought the Belgium team of Dimitri van der Berg, Kim Huybrechts, just watching those two for the weekend, there was drama on and off the hockey. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this World Cup, the newer format, plays out second time round next month. And you heard a little while ago from Brendan Dolan, he's the current Northern Ireland number 2. He's playing down how big this weekend is coming up for him, but £500 ahead of Darryl Gurney for that second spot in the Northern Ireland team. So it is very much all to play for this weekend. But I think regardless of who ends up partnering Josh Rock, whether it is Brendan or Darryl, that is a decent looking lineup for Northern Ireland. And a lot of the teams there are going to be confirmed after this weekend. A lot of them we do know already based on the rankings. You've got that new lineup for England, Luke Humphries and Michael Smith, the 2024 world champion with the 2023 world champion. And for Luke, the world number one, not played in the World Cup before, but he said in the past how much he's wanted to put on that England shirt. They could be a formidable partnership. And when we talk about strong partnerships, tried and tested, isn't it? Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton, it doesn't matter what form they're in individually. When it comes to this weekend, the World Cup, putting on that Wales shirt, they just seem to find their best stuff, and they are the defending champions. I think they are going to take some stopping again. You've got the German team as well. They've been together for a little while now. Martin Schindler and Gabriel Clemens, semi-finalists last year. They had a very good chance of knocking out Scotland in that semi and making the final. Feels a little bit different this time around. You've got one of them, Martin Schindler. He is a winner on the Euro Tour. Can he translate that into this event and inspire his partner Gabriel Clemens and the host nation to the title? And just a couple more. I will try and leave you with some, Hannah, but one team that was confirmed last weekend, we had the Asian qualifiers on Sunday, 3 teams booking their spots in the field, and Darts Twitter and probably just all Darts fans in general, I think they were pleased to see the Lims, Paul Lim and Hanna Frostman win through to represent Singapore again. And the last one for me could be a surprise package, I think, just looking at it on paper. You've got the Japan team of Tomoya Goto and Yusei Azumoto. And Goto, he's been in the last 2 World Cups, but we did see him find his feet on the big stage at the World Championship just gone when he beat Ian White in the first round. And Azumoto, one of the new names to make their mark on the Asian Tour this year. I think he's won 3 titles already, sitting second on that order of merit. So it's a World Cup debut and looking good for an Ali Pali debut at the end of the year. And I think those two, again, if they can settle on that stage, they could cause some problems as well.
Yeah, and every time I was like, oh, there's a group that I think looks really good, you're like, and here's a group that I'm going to name. So, fine. That's how it's going to be. Actually, first of all, I agree. Normally, I'm not patriotic enough to be like, oh, England's going to take it. But I think Luke and Michael could really do something here. Fancy their chances on that. Yeah, Martin Schindler brings out and has in the past brought out his best stuff in the World Cup. If he can just get Gabriel to kind of match him for it, they'll be taking some stopping as well. Damon Hedda and Simon Whitlock, I know both of them feel like they're kind of off the boil, but I do think they work very well together in terms of their playing style, so I could see them having a run with it. In terms of a team that I don't believe will have a run, but I just like them, so it is what it is. I love to see that there's a French team. Who would have thought? Like I said, I don't expect them to have fantastically deep runs, but I'm just excited that they're there. And I think on some level, with the two of them, they're just excited that they're there. To represent Burton properly, USA, put it all in behind the USA team. And then to not represent him properly, even though we're both from the States, Team Canada, every year I think they're going to do a little bit more than they end up doing, but this could be the year. And also in terms of people who were showing a little bit more form than they have been on the bigger stages, I'm going to say one more with New Zealand, with Hapaipua and Ben Robb. They had a little bit more about them for both of their games in terms of the finals or the World Championship. And so another entry with the two of them could see them finally hit their stride together. But yeah, I think what everybody is most excited about, obviously, is the pairs, because who doesn't love watching the World Cup for the pairs? And everybody is quadruply excited for the Lims, because insanity from them to keep going and going and going and going. I am significantly younger than Paul Lim, and I need a nap after I watch the game. It's just too much for me.
Yeah, I don't think the Limbs are ever going to stop. We could be doing this podcast in 25 years and we'll be talking about Paul Lim and Harry Lim qualifying for World Cups and World Championships. Well, we'll be back in a moment with the mailbag. I've got a few of your listener questions to answer, but let's bring in our final guest on this week's show. He is the Secretary General of the WDF. Here's our chat with Nick Rolls. I'm pleased to say we're joined by the WDF's Secretary General and referee, Nick Rolls. Thanks for the time again, Nick. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, Alex. Thank you very much. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Plenty to catch up on since we last had you on the show. I was just having a look earlier, August last year.
August last year, wow. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It certainly does. Well, let's get straight into the most recent announcement. The 2024 World Masters is going to be held in Hungary. It's a new host country for the tournament. But how did it come together for Budapest to be that home for the World Masters this year?
Well, really interesting one. I guess there's several reasons, really. So we've been, as WDF and WDF promotions, have been looking at, widening the footprint, if you want to call it that, of the WDF. Wanting to go to places that want to promote the tournament. And at Lakeside in, when was it? December, Jesus. I'll get mixed up myself. In the last Lakeside, we met with the guys from Hungary about a couple of things. So, funny enough, the conversation started with me talking to them about, when you're looking to have more tournaments now. It's great to see Hungary building as a nation within the WDF. When are you going to start using Dart Connect? Was how the conversation started, and we've had that conversation. And then they were talking about the World Masters. And one of the things that's come about the World Masters, which comes out of the general meeting that we had in September in Denmark last year, was that the member countries that, reminded me, or more to the point, probably reminded the guys from WDF Promotions about how important the World Masters is. Because whilst the World Championship is the number one tournament, the World Masters is open to the world, so to speak, for qualifiers, whereas the World Championships is just those 76 players, 78 players, whatever it was in December. So this is how important it was. So I was therefore thankful to the nations, if you like, to be able to go and fly their flag, so to speak, and go to the promotions team and say to them, listen, guys, World Masters has got to be our priority here. And then when we were talking to the Hungarians, they were sort of saying, look, we'd be interested in moving this forward. So Robert Waterman from WDF Promotions was the guy that's been having the majority of the conversations with the Hungarian team, and which ended up with several visits to Hungary, meeting them. We've been impressed with their efforts and their resource and the support of their government as well, as all, if you like, led to Budapest being the place that we've gone with. So we had a conversation back when they had the Budapest Open, which was in April. Robert and I went to that tournament. We had some long conversations with them. So yeah, that's how it's come about. If you like, those conversations have ended in us agreeing that it's going to be in Budapest.
And it's a big week of darts lined up in Budapest, not just the World Masters, but you've got the World Open, the World Championship qualifiers, two events that are open for anyone without a tour card to enter, two chances to qualify for Lakeside. I'm even considering having a go myself, but how pleased are you to have these events back on the calendar now?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was our number one aim. We've managed to land that. It's taken a lot of effort to get there, but yeah, it is brilliant that it's back on there. I think it's a beautiful city as well, Budapest, if you've ever been. So players and officials may want to go there a bit earlier or stay a few more days later. And one of the sponsors of the tournament is going to be a company called Festival Travel, who are the travel experts within. When I say travel, they're dealing with all the hotels, but all the player entries will go through those guys as well. So they're going to be able to offer players, a day before or a day after to stay, etc., to be able to see the country. So we're trying to make it a little bit more than just a darting thing, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously the darts is the main thing, and really proud of the fact that we're moving from the silver tournament with the World Open was in the Netherlands to a gold tournament this year. So, as you said, the World Masters itself, gold event, or platinum, I should say, goes to Lakeside, or the winners go to Lakeside there, and then the gold tournament, and then also, of course, the World Championship qualifiers as well. So, yeah, brilliant, really, really pleased.
And one more on the World Masters. When we last spoke, we knew then it wasn't going to go ahead in 2023. You were hopeful it would come back in 2024, and you said about the importance of these long-term deals for these events. So is this a one-year deal in Hungary, or is the vision to host the event there for a few years at least?
I guess the way to answer that would be it's not unlikely that we don't go back there. Not unlikely that we don't go back. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. So there's every chance we could go back there in 2025. The honest truth is that the last few weeks has been, or the last few months, dare I say, has been about getting 2024. But I'm not going to say that there hasn't been discussions about, making that 2025. I think there's it makes total sense. Look, my mind is a lot clearer, and I think that more to the point, and more importantly, the member countries, but also the players' minds are very clear about Lakeside. And dare I say, we haven't had a single question about Lakeside for 2025 since December. Why? Because everybody knew it was on, and that would be a lovely position to be with regards to the Masters as well. So, want to do it? Definitely not off the table. I think we just need to see how the next few months goes, and possibly even see how it goes in Hungary to make sure that everything is the right thing for all parties as well as the players.
No, that makes sense. Well, let's look back on the last 9 months since we had you on, and a big announcement came in September. It was revealed that players couldn't play in both the WDF and PDC World Championships in the same year.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when we spoke, you had a meeting planned with the PDC to discuss it. So how disappointed were you to see that players had to choose, particularly the ladies like Bo Greaves and for Luke Littler missing out on 2 events at the Lakeside?
Yeah. Look, I think this is one where I've never hidden the fact that I was disappointed that wasn't going to be the case. Equally, we have to accept and respect the fact that the PDC can make their own decisions about how they run their tournaments, and then we have to respect the fact that the players can make the choices around the tournaments that they play in. I'm also equally not going to say that we were pleased that Bo chose to stay and play at Lakeside. And my very personal Nick Rolls feeling was that was the right decision. We had long conversations with Bo and with her manager as well, but also the same with Luke and his team as well. Again, I would love to think that in 2024 the decision will be changed, but I'm also realistic, if that makes sense. Though.
Yeah, I was going to touch on this year. Obviously, Bo did become a 2-time world champion. Obviously, this year, in all likelihood, she's going to have to make that decision again. Are the WDF keen to reopen those talks with the PDC, see if they can change their stance on this?
Yeah, look, I think I've said this before, and I know Matt said it, but Matt and I get on and we can have conversations, etc. We haven't had one for a while, so maybe that is, now that the World Masters is secured and that's not quite, not top of my agenda, but you get what I mean, there's a little bit more time, dare I say, to talk about those things. Definitely something that we could and should have a conversation about and see where it goes, yeah.
Well, looking back at the Lakeside last year, we also crowned a first men's world champion from Belgium, Andy Bartens, living up to his pre-tournament favourite tag, winning the title. He's since gone on to the PDC, won his tour card. But is that a good tool, I guess, for the WDF to promote their system? You've got players coming through these events, and there is that pathway to move into the PDC?
Yeah. I think there's 2 ways to look at that. I mean, one is, yes, definitely. I think the top 7 of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, in January won their tour cards. So 7 of the WDF top 10 ranked players won their tour cards. And you can fight it, or you can wish them the best of luck and take pride in the fact that we've helped them get where they wanted to be, if you like, which is, they're trying to make the best of their future in darts. We want to make the WDF bigger and better. We think that we're on that journey. It's a hell of a long journey. If you think back to where the PDC were back in 1993 to where they are now, it took them a fair while to get where they were. Now, are the WDF going to get that big? Who knows in the future? But we're not sitting around doing nothing. There are other conversations taking place about other tournaments. So that's not one for now because they're embryo ideas, so to speak. But we are making those to see whether we can make those moves. For the players, I think we have to respect the fact that Andy Barton's and Chris Lamman and people like that are going to want to be the best player they can be, and who are we to stand in their way? So the way that myself and the team have looked at it is that these players have gone and where they've left gaps, there's now 7 spaces in the top 10 for new players to come through, and everyone has to start somewhere, right? So what's to say that the 7 of the top 10 from this year don't go on to get their tour cards next year as well? Yeah, I see it as a positive.
Absolutely. Well, it was a new slot in the calendar for Lakeside last year as well, taking place in December, and we saw
thanks for reminding me. Yeah.
I wasn't there on purpose, but yeah, we saw we saw a noticeable upturn in the ticket sales as well for that week. But how did yourself and the rest of the team at the WDF reflect on that second World Championship? What were you happy with, and what were the areas you highlighted to maybe try and work on for this year?
I thought it was amazing. Is that the right word? Amazing. I thought it was really, really good. Definitely the busiest it had been for years. We had sessions that had sold out. We were really pleased with the way the team gelled together. I think that was one of our internal, if you like that, if that's the right word, the highlights for us as a group of people running the tournament. Everybody was absolutely fantastic. We had a thoroughly enjoyable time, hard work, but a good time. But I have to commend the players. The players were excellent all the way through. I don't think, if I remember back, that we had anyone that was unhappy with what we tried to do. We tried to take a few learnings, albeit obviously it would have been 18 months prior to that we'd had the tournament before, maybe a bit longer than that. We tried to take a couple of learnings from there, but for us it was about the players. We made it about the players. We made sure that they had we gave them the best possible service, if that's the right phrase. So they were all the good things. I think fan experience is probably the phrase I'd use to see where could we make it more fun, perhaps, for the fans. So is there a bit more that we can do to make it more of an experience for those guys? That's the one bit that we would like to explore, and I know the guys are busy doing that with the ticket sales and those sorts of things, which are already out there, of course.
We'll keep an eye out for that. Well, as a fan watching at home, one of the disappointments for me personally, it was the I know a few of our listeners mentioned this as well, it was the lack of a UK broadcaster on site until the last few days. It was great that the event was free to watch on YouTube, but for anyone, but one of my gripes, it was the adverts that popped up mid-game, and after they'd played you'd missed something. What was the feedback you got on the coverage?
Yeah. Well, I guess if you start with a couple of facts, it was the most viewed Lakeside ever, albeit lots of those views came through the new media of the YouTube and sort of worldwide streaming. And also, when I say worldwide streaming, places like on Fubo in the USA, which is obviously massive. The feedback we got that was really good was that people could watch it wherever they were in the world. So therefore, if you were to, it's a double-edged sword. If you were to get a TV, let's call it contract, say for example in the United States, they could, for example, say, okay, well, we're going to show it on our TV channel, and so therefore you can't show it on any YouTube channels or any streaming channels within the country. So if you haven't got access to that particular TV channel, you're actually restricting the number of people. So do you see what I mean? There's a double-edged sword to the fact that how many people could see it against if it was on a TV channel. Traditionalists, look, they missed the fact that it wasn't on, should we call it, analog TV. But others were pleasantly surprised about the quality as well. That we spent a lot of time with people behind the scenes, then talking to the guys that were doing the streaming to say this is how we want it. So there's an expectation now of darting fans that you're not necessarily just seeing the board and like guys chucking at the boards. That there is more to it than that. So I think it was 6 and 2 threes. I think the bit of look with YouTube, that's the way YouTube works. I guess you can get people buy. I'm not an expert on this, but you can buy, I believe, YouTube Premium which means that you get rid of the ads. But of course, by having the ads, that's the bit that pays for it, if that makes sense. So that one is. I'd love to be in a place where we could go to YouTube and say, please, sir, could you not do it just as some fella's about to hit a 170 or one of the girls who's about to hit a 170, but not quite the way it works. Work to do. Let's see what we can do on that. I'm not sure what can be done, but equally, everybody around the world could see it.
That's fair enough. Well, one more on last year's World Championship, and we did have a new MC in Anthony Dundas taking over from Richard Ashdown, two good friends of yours, but just a word on Anthony in his first year as the MC at Lakeside.
Rubbish on me. I personally was very well aware of, my role. If you look at what I did, we were blessed last year in so much as we had 5 referees there with myself, Anthony, Marco, Charlie, Darren, and then we introduced Christian this year as well. So I was able to step away and do a few bits and pieces, but I was very, very aware of Anthony's role and what the step up from refereeing to MCing, so to speak. I thought he was brilliant. I've obviously had conversations with Richard, who also thought he was brilliant. We are in a position where we have already, having spoken both with Richard and with Anthony, and Anthony is going to take up the role both at the World Masters and the World Championships of 2024 as the MC as well. So if you like breaking news, then that's, dare I say, that's the breaking news for this particular podcast. But over the moon with him. He was chuffed to bits. He thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, let's see where we go from here. But for 2024, Anthony's our man.
Well, congratulations to Anthony, well deserved. And let's look ahead then to this Lakeside coming up. Is there going to be a change? There's going to be an extra day this year starting on the Friday night. So it's a 10-day event, and the WDF recently announced an extended field for the boys and the girls events as well. But what was the thinking behind adding that extra day and moving to a Friday night start?
Yeah, the extra day, I think we were talking earlier about there were sessions that were sold out. And the Friday, obviously we only had one Friday last year, but that was one of the sessions that was sold out. To be fair, I think it was very close to being sold out, but the Friday night was obviously one that went down really well. It's easier for fans to come at the weekend. They've got no work worries, and Friday evening into Saturday is obviously one of those days where you haven't got to get up on Saturday morning for many people, and so they do come on the Friday. So look, it's just exploring things really, and we thought we'd not take. I don't think it's taking a chance. I think it will work out well. We always had in the back of our minds of extending the youth. That wasn't something that was already. We chatted about it very briefly. It certainly wasn't something that we were definitely doing at that particular point. And maybe we would have been able to do some other things. But obviously now we're going to 8 boys and 4 girls, which that was it wasn't a tough decision, but there were some factors that came into it. So we've gone with the top 4 boys from the ranking table, and then 4 qualifiers from the World Championship qualifier, and then the same for the girls, but numbers being 2. There's a bit of a call in the world ranking tables because places like England this year have got a number of Grand Prix events, and Hungary are hosting a lot of events. You could say that the ranking tables could be dominated by those 2 countries, but equally our view was if we don't try it, we don't see. But also, actually, let's see whether that inspires some of the other countries to say, do you know what, we're going to hold some more youth tournaments as well. So to raise the number of tournaments we have in the youth going forward as well. And this year, I think we were looking at this last year. I think we had 71 youth tournaments in 71 tournaments in 2023 youth tournaments. And this year, at this point in time, we're scheduled to have 95. It's gone up from 71 to 95. So the youth tournaments are bubbling along and coming along nicely. More countries are joining that party. Lithuania last weekend was another one that had a youth tournament in 24. So that was definitely a consideration in there before we could announce it. But look, it can't be a bad thing, right? You're giving the future stars of tomorrow the chance to play on the Lakeside stage.
No, it's great to see, and hopefully you'll hit that 100 mark in 2025 with the youth events?
Yeah, look, I mean, 2024 is not over yet. There's still some tournaments that could get announced towards the back end of the year. That's not be holding anything back. Sometimes they do come a little bit later. They've got to work out, whether they can hold their tournaments or not. So, we'll see.
Well, let's move on from the Lakeside. Let's get on to some other events, and one that unfortunately won't be happening this year is the Australian Open, a platinum event cancelled for 2024 due to a lack of commercial partners. Is there any word on whether it's going to come back next year, or if there could be another platinum event that could come onto the calendar in its place?
Yeah, good question. Look, the tournaments themselves, the WDF ranked tournaments, are all organised by the individual countries. So in this case, Australia. So Kelvin and Audrey and the team over in Australia, they are the ones responsible for for getting the sponsors, for putting the tournament together, all the logistical side of it, etc. We then please don't think it's a small part, but we then sort of facilitate it through the ranking tables, etc. like that. And then the World Championships and the World Masters come from those ranking tables, as you well know. So it really is down to Australia. I do know, having spoken to Kelvin, that they were absolutely gutted that they weren't going to be able to do the Australian Open. They were going to be working on it really hard during 2024 to be able to stick it back onto the calendar in 2025. But as we experienced from for our own experience with the World Masters in 2023, with the best will in the world, and Kelvin's a great guy and clearly loves darts and wants it to happen, but if you don't get those commercial deals in place, and you can't run a tournament that is at the very least going to be self-funding, but hopefully, a lot of the countries run their tournaments so that they can, dare I say, make a small profit that then goes towards getting teams to the Europe Cup or the World Cup, or perhaps being able to send their players to the World Masters, etc., then you can't do it. So I can't really answer the question other than to say I know that Australia will be trying their absolute damnedest to get the tournament back on the calendar.
Fingers crossed. Well, as you say there, a lot of these events, they are organised by the member countries, but one event that is a little bit closer to home, you might know a bit more about, is the Welsh Open, which is coming up at the end of August, but outside of Wales. It's going to be held in Somerset. I believe the previous venue in Wales has closed down now, but is this a stopgap for 1 year? Are we likely to see that event go back to being held in Wales next year?
Good question. I think I was speaking to the guys. They're calling it the Wenglish tournament this year, so it's a mixture of Wales and England. That was the comment I got from Wayne Williams and Sue Williams. Wenglish for this year. Ideally, they want their own tournament in Wales. Of course, they do. The English, so they approached England and they approached the WDF to see, this is where we want to tour. They got letdown's not the right word. These things unfortunately happen. Their venue has closed down. What could they do? There's not a lot they could do about that. So Somerset have come to the rescue. Yes, they would like to have their tournament back in Wales. Of course they would. But again, we haven't got involved in that at this moment in time, other than to know that they are trying to get it back into Wales.
Well, when we last spoke, we asked you about some events at the back end of 2023 that had been cancelled. The Italian Open, the Northern Ireland Open. You were working with them to get them back on the calendar. The Italian Open, that is back for September. No sign of the Northern Ireland Open yet. Is there any news on that one as well?
No, I haven't heard from the guys in Northern Ireland. Again, it's becoming like a broken record. It is about the actual member country, and again, the situation in Northern Ireland last year, it simply boils down to the finances. They've got to be able to make it work, because if they can't make it work, then they can't hold the tournament. So again, it comes down to those guys. I haven't heard from them. I'll be honest with you, I haven't made contact with them. I do need to give them a shout and see where they're at. So that's going to be one for you. You've actually reminded me, so I'll put a little note in my calendar to give them a call.
Good man. Well, we'll finish up with some listener questions. The first one comes from David Whiston, who says, why was live chat enabled on the live YouTube stream for the World Championships? The comments and banter in there was horrible. If you are going to allow live chat, why was the chat not moderated?
It's a really good question, and I must admit, I was one that was, I got a couple of messages from a couple of players, funnily enough, to say, look, this is not great. YouTube and those and live chats and those sort of things, they're not my bag. So look, excuse me if I use the wrong lingo here, but what I would say is that speaking to the WDF promotions team, who are the ones that put forward we got WDF YouTube channel, there is I'm told that it, and I have actually seen this part, so it is in many cases it's self-regulating. So somebody will say something that has happened, and somebody else will tell them to not say the words that they've used, whether it's derogatory or not. That did happen. I did see that. We did remove some content, I should say. But there is no doubt that there was a little bit more required. So for 2024, actually, let me just go back. Part of the experience, if you like, of going onto YouTube is about the chat rooms. And people do like to chat about the darts, and there are some good conversations that take place on there as well. So it isn't the right thing to take it away, but we fully respect and understand that for 2024 there needs to be, I think they're called moderators, so we need some more moderators to be eyeing up the channels and making sure that the wording is or the comments that go on there are okay to stay on there.
I'll nominate our good friend Andrew Sinclair to be a moderator when he's not doing the commentary. I'm sure he'll enjoy that. But next one comes from Wim. What is the reason the WDF African Cup was cancelled in April?
That's a good question. So I believe this is not one that I've been involved in, but I have seen. Let me just think if I can remember. The email was it was going to be in Tunisia. That bit I do know. I believe they ran into some political issues, and I can't remember whether that was about the players or the boards, or it wasn't quite as simple as they thought it was going to be. It was the first time they were going to run that. So I'm not going to be able to give you a full answer on that because I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, because it's not an area that I deal with. I don't deal with the cups, so to speak. Mine's more the WDF ranked tournaments, so to speak. Sorry, I can't answer that one. Not as well as I should be able to, anyhow, or could be able to.
All good. Well, two more for you. Jack says, are you working on a TV deal for Lakeside this year, and could prize money be increased?
Good questions. Always working on TV deals. Downside of it is, as I explained earlier, that if you do get a TV deal, then obviously, so for example, if we were to get a TV deal in England, then that TV company would almost certainly say, well, you can't put it on streaming or in YouTube and those sorts of things, and so therefore you do restrict the number of people that can view it. Having said that, there's a commercial side to that, of course there is, and so those two things would have to be weighed up, and if the commercial deal were correct, we have to be commercial. As simple as that, because that's what brings in the money and enables us to run those tournaments. And should that happen, am I promising that if we got a TV deal we would up the prize money? No, I'm not, because it depends what that. There was a double-edged sword which I've learned over. That's twice I've used that phrase. There's a double-edged sword about TV in so much as, yes, you would get income from the TV, but the other side of that is that then you have to get the lighting and all the works that go around it, the number of cameras you need and all of that sort of thing, which offsets the income. So look, that's a very simplistic view, but it's not quite as simple as TV pays for everything, because it doesn't. And I've learned that, because I thought that, and I've learned over the last couple of years that that's not the case. Yes, we're looking for TV deals. Will we get one? Don't know. And will we do it? Has to be commercially right.
That makes perfect sense. And the last one comes from Elliot, who says, what is the current state of relations between the WDF and the ADC? Are there plans for increased collaboration?
Interesting. I'm going to be honest and say we haven't had any conversations with the ADC. Again, our resource isn't massive within the WDF, and that resource is spread across the world. And the resource that is Nick Rolls at this moment in time has been literally focused on the World Masters, and also making sure that all the tournaments that countries want to go onto the calendar, and we get the ranking table sorted out. So that's where my focus has been. Does that mean that we're not going to speak to the ADC? Never say never.
Well, Nick, it's always a great pleasure to get you on the show. Thanks very much for giving us so much of your time, and congrats on the news getting the World Masters back on the calendar. Wish you all the best with that, and what else is to come in 2024 as well.
Yeah, great to be back. I can't believe it was August last year. Wow, we'll have to do it a bit quicker than that next time round, right? Oh, and by the way, see you at the World Masters, where I'll be watching. I might even mark your game, you know.
Oh, that would be a punishment. I think you'd have to lose a bet to do that.
Alex, no problem at all. Nice to speak to you.
Thanks again to Nick for joining us, and we'll finish up the show with the mailbag. We've got two very differing questions, shall we say, from our listeners this week. The first one comes from Rich P, who says, who are the players who have been best/worst at managing their schedule over the past few years?
And that's a very, very hard question that involves a lot of remembering how players manage their schedules over the past few years. But I have sat and thought with this, and I have come up with the best, and I have come up with the worst, so we're going to go with that. For the best for me, I'm going to give credit here to Luke Littler. For somebody who's young and wants to play in as much as he can and be involved in as much, to finally have gotten to a stage where he is getting these invites for everything. He is qualifying for things. The fact that he has stopped down and said, I'm not going to go to this event and that event a few times just to be able to do things like go on holiday and stuff is very healthy. He doesn't need to attend everything. It won't be the thing that prevents him from, being in the top 64 with his form. So he can take the time to space it out and do things that are extra interesting to him and that keep him in the loop. And especially with all the stuff that goes on for Premier League, to skip some stuff that goes on while that is underway is smart and healthy. Good for him and his team for making sure that he doesn't attend every single thing because everybody's excited to see the team phenomenon and then completely burn him out or burn him to a crisp after a few months of hard work on the tour. So I'm going to go with that being the best. And the worst is going to be controversial because everybody on God's green earth loves him. But I'm going to give a shout for Gary Anderson, because Gary Anderson doesn't love to travel. And that has been well known for years, that he doesn't travel to the Euro Tours. He doesn't want to travel to the Euro Tours. So he's got really good form to him. He didn't have to go to all of them. But the fact that he was constantly leaving them out and sitting by the wayside on those and never going to any of them also makes it reasonably clear that if he could this year get away with that as well, he probably would very happily not go to any of them. It's just that as he's watched, ranking money come off of his, ranking, I should say, and start to slide down, he wants to kind of stop the rot. And the best place to stop the rot is being involved in as many Pro Tours and as many Euro Tours as humanly possible. And, a few decent showings on those will help considerably. And so for somebody who would prefer to go to no Euro Tours because he's crazy, because those are the best events, obviously, if he had managed his schedule a little bit better, where maybe he attended one or two over the years, he might have found his schedule to be a little bit more favorable, consistently going onwards with what he would like to do, as opposed to kind of being caught out and having to show up to make sure that, again, the rot of the ranking money doesn't slide out from under him. And he's got the form, so he could have popped round to one or two, done a good showing, and called it on the rest of them. So in terms of, again, remembering every player and how they've managed their schedule over the past few years, those are the two names that I've come up with. There's probably an argument 8 ways to Sunday to be made about everybody else. I just have not paid close enough attention to be able to form an argument. So that's my two.
No, some good picks, and it's a good question. I still think for the top players, really, managing their schedule is something that I don't think has been properly mastered yet by anyone, especially the current schedule that it is now, with just so many events on the PDC calendar. You think back to when Phil Taylor was playing on the tour, and he'd often skip these floor events, but the tour was nowhere near as stacked as it is in the current day. But you think of some players last year, we had Nathan Aspinall and Peter Wright, both involved in the Premier League, they were skipping an awful lot of the floor events, and in the end they both missed out on the Players' Championship finals, left themselves too much to do, and it meant they didn't get to play in that last major event before the World Championships. And yeah, we see it with a few players now. Michael van Gerwen, he's been skipping events for a while now. You won't see him at every Players' Championship or every Euro Tour, and more players are starting to follow suit. We see the likes of Luke Humphries, Michael Smith, Gerwin Price. They're among those skipping these events. And like I say, I don't know if there is a magic formula to what is the best management of a player's schedule, because I think it all depends on that individual player. Because if you're in a good run of form, do you try and strike whilst the iron's hot, so to speak, and enter more events, see if you can clean up and win a few titles in a bunch together? And on the flip side, if you're in a bad run of form, but you've got that luxury of being highly ranked and you're able to skip events, do you take some time off and take some time out, or do you keep pushing and enter everything to find that solution to try and turn your form around? So it's a real tough one. And you mentioned Luke Littler. I've got to say, I know it's very unique circumstances with him, but I think he's done very well with his schedule this year. Obviously, winning the events that he did early on has helped a lot. Winning that Euro Tour in Belgium, winning that Players' Championship, both those on his debuts in those events. But it's given him so much more leeway for skipping events, and it has opened a lot more doors for him. It's got him into pretty much all the tournaments, the big events for the rest of the year. But you look at it darts-wise, and outside of that, he's had a lot of media, a lot of other things outside of the game to be involved in. And when was the last time you saw Luke Littler advertised for a darts exhibition? Because I can't remember seeing one. So the way he split his darts with the other activities, the non-dart side, but still that public-facing role, being in front of the camera for interviews, other things like that, he seems to have struck a really good balance. And obviously not everyone is like Luke Littler and will have that option. But if we were to see another teenager or another player have that same impact on the game, I think you've got a pretty decent blueprint there to follow on looking after your schedule.
And George Dobson writes in and says, would you rather have hair like Ryan Searle or be bald like Rob Cross and MVG?
Wow, what a question. And yeah, we can always rely on George to bring out the big questions for us, can't we? And what a one to finish the show on this week. Yeah, I'm not sure that Ryan Searle long hair would suit me. I wouldn't know what to do with all that hair. So yeah, it doesn't take me long to wash my hair. So I think the easier option, the easier choice would be shave the barnet and join Rob Cross and Michael van Gerwen. And I don't really have much else to add to that, to be honest. But if you've got this far with the show, then do let us know what you'd go with at home. Are you a Ryan Searle long hair kind of person? Are you going to be on the heavy metal bandwagon, or are you going to go for the bald look like Rob Cross or Michael van Gerwen? Let us know. And Hannah, which one are you going for?
As a person who has hair like Ryan Searle, except for in a very fetching color of blue, I think I will keep it the way it is.
Excellent. Well, yeah, what a question to finish the show. But is there anything else you wanted to add, Hannah, before we go?
Nope. I'll let you have the final word for once in your life. So in the spirit of our presently departed Burton, I will say make sure that if you are watching the darts that are coming up, because there's a lot of darts the week ahead, that you hang tight. And I was almost going to steal yours and say enjoy the darts, but enjoy the darts and hang tight until they are on. I am very excited for this weekend's darts.
It's a big privilege to sign off the show. It doesn't happen very often, but a few thank yous. We've got to say thank you to our guests, to Brendan and Nick for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors as well, to Darts Corner, Condor Darts and Quiff for their continued support. Links in the description for all of our sponsors. So if you need some new darts equipment, Darts Corner and Condor Darts, they're the places to go. And if you fancy a flutter on the darts, whether it's the Premier League tonight or the Euro Tour at the weekend, Quiff is the place to go to get your odds supercharged. Use the app or the website, links in the description. And remember, 18 plus, T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. BeGambleAware.org. Thank you to everyone for listening. And last one from me as well, I've got a plug for an event coming up this weekend, Sunday, at the Astley Bridge Conservative Club in Bolton. There's going to be a 12-hour darts marathon. I'm going to be chucking a few darts. I'm going to be supporting the day as well, along with some PDC players, all to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Support. It's a great cause, so if you can donate, links are in the description for that as well. We'll post it on our socials, and if you're in the area, you fancy coming along, please do. It starts at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, runs right through the day to the evening, so it'd be good to see any of our listeners. If you are are local to come along if you're at a loose end and want to come and enjoy some darts there. But yeah, that is everything for this week. Thanks again, Hannah, for joining me. You'll have to hang tight to hear from Burton next week on the show. But until then, Premier League tonight, Euro Tour at the weekend. If you're going to get involved in the charity this weekend and come and chuck some darts. But until then, all you've got to do now is enjoy the darts.